Hi, I'm Rebecca. Welcome to my sewing room. This is So Be It. This week I'm going a little bit of a different direction. I'm not making my own pattern, and it's not apparel. I'm making a bag. C and Sew B4840 bag A. I really wanted to make bag B, but I didn't have enough fabric because the fabric that I chose I've had for quite a while. It calls for a pre-quilted cotton fabric, and I had actually already purchased some. And it also is reversible. This will be the outside. I think for the most part you will only see this fabric on the underside of my straps because it's also supposed to be lined. And I have this out of the stash from my grandma's fabric. And I thought that it went really well with this floral fabric that I got. So that's what I chose. I'm not following that pattern 100%, so I'm doing a little bit of pattern hacking, and you will see as I go what I am actually hacking. The pattern calls for folding the straps, but because I have nice thick quilted reversible cotton, I am actually just going to bind my straps in bias tape and just plain black 20-inch invisible zipper. So the first step to making my bag is to make the straps. I really love that back side of this fabric, and I am lining the inside of the bag so I won't see it anywhere. So I actually decided to cut my straps down because they're supposed to be like almost 3 inches wide. I think it's like 2 3/4 inches wide with the pattern piece, which I had originally cut down. I decided that I'm not going to make the tube for my strap because I want to see the back side of this fabric. So I have had this hot pink bias binding, and I'm going to use this to bind the edges. It's just like seam binding. So it gets sandwiched in between my bias, and I will just do a straight stitch really close to the edge of the bias tape on both sides of my straps. I will be leaving the last 1/2 inch on each side of both straps without bias binding, because that then has to get folded and pressed under so that there'll be no raw edges when they get attached to the outside of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'll be back. All right, both of my straps look like this with about a 1/2 inch at both ends. The next step is to fold this over, press it, attach them to the front and back, which is these two pieces of the bag. I did use my wash away marker. It's really hard to see, but because of the black and the busyness of the pattern, but they're marked about 2 inches down where they're supposed to be. So I'll go ahead and iron those down, pin them, and stitch them. You're supposed to stitch them with a box and then an X through to reinforce. I will probably do that a couple times. Hopefully I can make sure it looks nice with it like on top of it. We'll see. Depending on how hard of a time I have just doing the first one, will decide if I do it twice to reinforce. Straps are attached to the bag. So once that is done, time to move on to the top of the bag. Obviously, the top of the bag includes the zipper. As you can see, I have the zipper in my hand. The top of the bag also consists of 2 long pieces. There are large dots on one side one side of the top and small dots on the other. So the side with the large dots, you need to press the seam allowance under, which in this case is only a 1/2 inch. I'm really glad that I double checked the seam allowance. I measured it with my gauge and it ended up being a 1/2 inch. Or else I would have ended up making my bag too small. So once that is pressed, we have to stay stitch the side of the top with small dots. And then, which I have not done that yet, but after that, you're supposed to whip stitch the ends of your zipper, which I have done. And since it's black and the thread's black, I will be surprised if you can actually see my whip stitching. You really can't. But at the end of the zipper there, and then where the zipper lays at the end of the top pieces, whip stitch it there. You can see that just a tad. Whip stitch. So I need to do my stay stitching, and then the next thing is to attach the zipper to this side, the pressed side of the tops, one at a time, one side on each, or one side at a time. So I'll go ahead and get my top together. All right, once your top is done, you now have to take the side sections and attach them to the ends of the top. Right sides together, 1/2 inch seam allowance, and probably want to trim off the rest of the zipper before you do that. So hopefully you don't have an issue sewing it. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm just making one long line. But next step is to attach the bottom to this section. So now I'm making a big circle. So I'll attach both of these and press my seams probably towards the side. I think towards the side. And I'll be back. Here's top, bottom, and top, bottom, and sides of my bag here. That part is all done. Now is the part to attach the side, or the front and the back, to the top, bottom, and the sides. So to open the zipper, which I did, pin the top, sides, and bottom to the front and back sections, matching the dots. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then obviously we will be stitching. You know what? I need to turn this back wrong side out and do it from the wrong side, or else I won't be able to get the pins out while I'm sewing. So I'll go ahead and pin that and stitch all the way around and show you what I got. Okay, the bag is put together. You also need to make sure that you get a piece of cardboard, 11.5 by 4.5 inches, to set that inside the bottom to give your bag a little bit of structure. Now that my bag is completed, the outside of my bag is completed, I need to do the exact same thing for the lining. Everything except for a zipper, because that's already attached to my bag. Once the lining is put together, then we have to figure out how I attach it to my bag. Here's the lining, all done, pressed, and almost ready to go into the bag. I don't know why I turned it this way. It needs to stay this way. I'm a turd. Next thing to do is make the pocket. That's why I turned it that way. Make the pocket to go on the lining. It does have 2 darts here, so the first step is to make those tiny little darts and then press them. Once your pleats are done, press the pleats to the center, and then you need to press the upper edge down 1/4 inch and then fold it over 1/2 inch to make this, to finish this edge. Now I need to stitch these 2 sides and clip the corners and then turn this right side out and press it. Once you have the top folded back and then pressed, you also have to press in your seam allowances or to finish the edges there, and then sew that down. Now I need to pin this to the lining and then stitch around the 3 edges of the pocket and up this middle blue stitching line, so I have actually 2 pockets. There is my pocket all stitched. I've turned my lining wrong side out again and trimmed all of my seams. Now I just need to, since I already have the cardboard in there, slide this in here, fit it all into the corners the way it is supposed to be, and then slip stitch, which is by hand, the folded edge along my zipper. So I'll do that, and then I'll be back when the bag is finished. So, do you need a new gym bag? An overnight duffel bag? Do you take short trips for work maybe? Here you go. This is the perfect size bag for like one outfit. You could throw a pair of jammies in there. I did notice when I put the tennis shoes in and tried to zip it up, those having shoes in the bag right next to each other at least are a little bit too big. I normally wouldn't carry my shoes in my bag anyways. I just did that as a demonstration to show you how much can actually fit in here. Other than the fact that they were too wide, I could have put more stuff in there because there was still some space left at the top of the bag. Pros: this was a really easy bag to make. It's actually really easy to customize if you want basic directions, you know, cut the pieces out and put it together. You can add detail. There was supposed to be a fabric band across or around this whole thing, like a contrast fabric, but I like this fabric too much, so I didn't do that. But that's a way to customize it. You could use ribbon. The straps, as you know, were not supposed to be made like this, so that's a little bit of customization for myself. This is a really good size bag to have if you do overnight things or run to the gym and, you know, garbage trucks, it's garbage day. When I go to the gym, if I'm just coming home, I don't change. I get cleaned up when I'm at home. But a lot of the times I run to the grocery store or I do whatever errands that I have to do while I'm out. So I don't like to do that in stinky, sweaty gym clothes. So this is a really good size bag to throw in your deodorant, your wipes to clean up any sweat that you need to, and then your change of clothes. If you need to, you know, hairbrush, touch up your makeup or something before you go out. This is a really good size bag for that. One more thing I forgot to mention about a pro of the bag. It is a smaller, taller bag. And so normally those kind of bags, they would be harder to get into, or not get into, to get like bigger things in and out of. However, because the top of the bag also goes a little bit down to the sides. That makes the opening a lot bigger, so it's easy to get things in and out of. I do have a couple cons to the construction of this bag. Either the cardboard that I used maybe wasn't stiff enough, but I did use a flap from a box that had been used, but it hadn't been bent at all. It was only taped. So it was still a good box, and I feel like that might not be sturdy over time. Right now it works out just fine, but I do feel like that it's going to break down. So maybe a stronger box or a very, very thin piece of wood if you're going to put something in the bottom, which you kind of do, or else the shape of the bag collapses. You know, actual duffel bag makers usually have something like some sort of plastic piece in there. So if you could figure out how to get a plastic piece in the bottom, that might be your best bet, because if this bag gets wet, that cardboard is going to be ruined, and I will have to undo the lining to take that out and change it. Also, if the bag gets dirty, I can't wash it other than spot washing it, because it's cardboard in there and it'll get ruined. So you have to be mindful of that. Also, if you noticed, the lining of the bag is floppy except for around the zipper. Obviously, it's good that you don't want it flappy around the zipper so the zipper doesn't get stuck in there, but it's very floppy around everything else. Taking things in and out are a little bit more difficult because you have to get the lining off of it. The pocket is not quite as sturdy as I think it could be. So when I do make another one of these, or the other option for the bag, because I really wanted to do the other option also, I will figure out how and where to tack the lining down to the inside of the bag so it holds it in place better. Probably like along the seams, I'll hand stitch the seams together so that holds that lining down and it doesn't flop around. Other than that, I think this is a really good bag. It'll be really useful. This is dedicated to my gym bag, so I will be using it for that. I may make another one. Well, I definitely will be making another one anyways, but I may make another one out of a thicker fabric and a bit different fabric for like a bathroom bag. Unfortunately, I have a lot of prescriptions that I have to take, and my prescriptions and my makeup and all of my stuff doesn't fit together in the bag that I have. So I need something, my dog. So I need something bigger. So I will be making one in the future, and I will show you, because I'll probably be making a video with it. So I will show you all of the changes that I make in the future. Hopefully, maybe this inspires you to make your own bag. Making bags seems to be quite a bit easier than making garments, except for the thicker fabric and some tricky corners that you might have to work with. But I've had a lot less issues each time I make a bag versus when I'm making clothing. So if you're just starting, maybe try out a bag, a purse, something that doesn't have a ton of detail, and just follow the directions and learn something. Thank you for watching Rebecca's Sewing Room this week. I hope you really enjoyed it. This was So Be It.